This is your Dad's Bet Baseball San Diego Padres MLB Team Preview 2026, and it is brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets. If you are watching this, if you're watching this, then you're using the QR code. There's a QR code on screen. If you are listening to this in your ear holes, hofapp.com. We love Hall of Fame Bets. Just using them today to compare about a couple pitcher things because there is no offseason on any of their player research. You can go through game logs. You can see how teams do against specific types of offenses. You can do this for every single sport. It has been a fantastic add-on to a lot of things that we do with Handigraphs. They are a great partner. Use code DADS. You get 50% off the first month, 7-day free trial. Can't really recommend them enough for baseball, especially as other seasons are winding down. They have player versus the bullpen, which has been something that we have found to be very elite for our capping. And again, they are the original friend of the pod. So Hall of Fame Bets, hofapp.com, use code DADS. With that said, we are here, CJ, after you were traveling and now you're back. We brought my friend, Justin Lafferty. Justin, say hello to the people.
Hey, everyone.
Justin is unique for this episode because he ran all the social. He worked for the Padres and he lived in San Diego, and he's a Bay Area guy, but now he's in Vegas. Justin, we wanted to bring you on to talk about this team that, there's been years I've been higher on this team than I am this year, just to give a little spoiler. But first, we're going to go through who's here, who isn't here on this squad, and let me just kind of go through them. So, guys who's here, who's staying here. They signed Michael King. I feel like Michael King pitched like 2 times last year and was sort of said, I'm over it. I'm not going to pitch anymore. And was hurt. They gave Sungwon Song a 4-year deal, which is interesting. Miguel Andujar, who actually I like as a low-key, I do like as a signing. I think he's actually like a really good fit on this team. Kyle Hart was re-signed. Ty Adcock was signed. A lot of these like mini guys that then they sort of went with a bunch of darts into the minor league deals. Tristan McKenzie, remember him? He's on this team. He actually looked great the other day. Griffin Canning, who is low-key one of CJMI's favorite pitchers, who tore his Achilles last year. Did tear his Achilles to win us an under outs bet though, because that was the game where that was going to be his last out, and he won the bet by doing that. Nick Castellanos, Ty France, German Marquez, Walker Buehler also got a minor league deal. Notable guys who are not here anymore: Dylan Cease, I was really never a fan of anyway. Luis Ariz, who I like where he is and no one else seems to. Robert Suarez, who is now on the Braves, not closing, which is kind of weird. And Ryan O'Hearn is going to save our Pirates from the depths of the NL Central. So with all of this, Justin, I want to ask you as our first guest, as our guest for this and our expert for this, what do you remember about this team last year?
I remember that it was the depth was not there, especially like on the offense. The pitching was just kind of a patchwork. You had Pivetta at the top. You had some starts from Michael King. You had what you could get from Yu Darvish, and then a roll of dice pretty much. We got some good stuff from Randy Vasquez, but like there's really you didn't have that certainty. Like even like with Dylan Cease, you didn't know what you were getting from start to start. So there wasn't like you could pencil, Cease in at 2 or 3, but like you couldn't really rely on him long term. So there was just a lot going on, and I think they really improved the depth this year. That's one thing I'm really excited about. I didn't think they addressed this offseason is just especially on offense.
No, they didn't address like pitching. Like it was like they didn't make really any big moves. Like that was just kind of what I don't know. That's a Preller issue, I'm assuming, just versus anything else with this team.
It's also there really was. I mean, Dylan Cease was probably like the top, pitching free agent on the market, and I don't think there was really much of a desire like after that last season where he had some good starts and then some just disastrous ones, where there really wasn't maybe that desire to move forward with the contract. So when he signed with Toronto, I'm like, all right, cool. That's good for him. Gotta get that bag. But they really didn't do much to address the pitching, but there wasn't really that guy this year. That you had Dylan Cease, you had Framber Valdez, but you didn't really have like that number one ace guy on the market this year.
CJ, What do you kind of remember about this team? Do you want to use handigraphs to help you?
Sure, be happy to bring up our good friend Handigraphs to kind of talk through a little bit, I guess, of some of what this team did well, what this team didn't do well. And I mean, I'm glad, Justin, you kind of stopped yourself from going into the area I thought you might be going into, which was, well, they really addressed depth in the pitching, because I was about to come on here and throw down to disagree on that take. Because if you look at their pitching staff here from, the guys that are coming back for, and on Handigraphs, you can see this is just the 2025 stats that are listed. First off, I was amazed that I saw that Michael King had pitched 74 innings. Like that
blows my mind, because I missed all of them.
We had him for wins leader, and I specifically remember like texting about this maybe 3 weeks into the season, because a lot of people forget last season. So they finished 90-72, sixth best record in franchise history. That was a good baseball team as far as the Padres historically, but they also started the season 13-3. And part of that was Michael King got off to a 3-0 start. In his first 3 starts, he won all 3 of his games. So I was already lining up, okay. Like I was playing the number, sort of the napkin math on the Michael King wins leader. And then like, I think it was maybe like with the 2 starts later, he got hurt. And then apparently he did pitch more innings later this season, or I just totally blacked out of my mind that he had pitched that many innings. So, the main thing I really remember was the inconsistency of some of the starting pitching, other than how great Pivetta was, especially at the start of the season. They're going to absolutely need to lean on him hard coming into this season. I mean, I always look for sort of the golden role for me. I know, Adam, this is something I stress with you a lot. And like, I look for that 20% or greater on K- BB. Pivetta was one of those guys. That tells me somebody who has really good command, also is able to get guys to whiff quite a bit. So he was excellent last year. But after that, like, their starting pitching depth, they were trying to depend on Yu Darvish to really give them something, which I never quite understood. Michael King, obviously, we talked about his issues. Cease, Justin, you mentioned, very sort of inconsistent. I think that also says a lot about the free agent pitching market, if he's your top pitching free agent, and that it was not necessarily a strong class of free agent pitchers compared to previous years. So, starting pitching wise, a little bit up and down. The batting, I do agree. I think they probably addressed some of the depth in there. And if you kind of go and look at who they're going to be, Laureano, good player, was somebody that certainly, if you look at like the WOBA getting on base and everything, he was definitely somebody that will make an impact. I don't hate the Castellanos. I don't know what you think about this, Adam, but like I thought the Castellanos was kind of a sneaky, nice signing. If anything, that means the beer fridge in the clubhouse will be stocked with him being in San Diego. So I do think they address some of the depth there from the batting side. But my biggest thing that we'll hit on probably more in this podcast is just that AJ Preller is, I don't know how many chips you have left at the table, man, because you dealt your last big one with DeVries, who is right now.
It's one of your dudes. That's one of CJ's dudes. We're making merch for
one of my
dudes. One of his dudes.
And you dealt him for Mason Miller, which Mason Miller, obviously great closer. I can see the argument to try and improve, which, by the way, was already the number 1 bullpen by WAR whenever they made that trade, to make it even better to kind of address some of the starting pitching depth concerns. But now you've got a aging Xander Bogaerts that you could have probably filled in more of those at-bats and in that position with DeVries, who you probably would have had a chance to call up later this year. Like that's my takeaways. Like, I think you didn't see a lot of moves this offseason because I think Preller's kind of out. Like, I don't know what he has left other than trying to just find guys on this roster to, take either some bad contract or maybe some older veterans.
Sorry.
No. Go, Justin. I wanted to hear what you had to say on it.
Yeah, no, I mean, the biggest problems have been like the Padres are up for sale right now, so they're not really, they don't have like that ownership support, like, signing another big contract right now. And yeah, they are kind of hamstrung by a lot of the long-term deals signed, by the past ownership when they were trying to like bring that championship to San Diego, like Bogaerts and like some of the guys who signed long-term. So,
that Bogaerts deal, sorry to cut you off, that Bogaerts deal is going to age so badly.
Yeah,
like so bad, because that was the same. It's the same free agent class from the Trevor Story one, and I never thought that I would say this, but like the fact that Bogaerts deal is going to age really badly. But yeah, keep going.
Yeah, and I mean Bogaerts started off pretty poorly in the beginning. He kind of picked it up toward the end of the year, but like it's kind of there's a lot of aging veterans on this team, and it's tough because there's probably like no better talent staff than AJ Preller, but then he will deal with prospects just as soon as he signs them or draft them.
Yeah.
So there's like there's still some time to make a couple moves. So like I don't think Dylan Cease was like they didn't trade for him until like a week or two before the season.
Yeah.
So Preller he's really good at like those kinds of sneaky acquisitions, but in terms of like prospects, that cupboard is bare. So in terms of maybe dealing from bullpen depth, or see if there is someone who does like Cruz Schoolcraft, who I'm still amazed that's a real name, first of all, and kind of seeing what is left. But there's really, in terms of like prospects, the cupboard is pretty much bare. So he had to rely on.
Yeah, I mean, you know who he has left to trade is it's his top two starters who are both free agents after this season in Pivetta and King. That's his pieces. Like if Preller is going to do something that AJ Preller typically tries to do, I would not be surprised in the slightest iota if one of Michael King or Pivetta is involved in some sort of trade, and the sell is we're trying to basically get more pitching depth, or we can get essentially the same type of pitching and more by trading one of these guys to get more back. Like that would be the type of move that I could foresee based on the fact that both of these guys are impending free agents.
I would look more for them maybe dealing with some of the bullpen depth. I'd say, because if you deal King or if you deal Pivetta, there's no one in AAA who's going to be coming up. Basically what they have in AAA right now is a lot of like replacement level. There's not like a hot prospect waiting to come up. So you still need someone to pitch those innings. So I think if you're going to see any kind of trade, it's going to be maybe dealing from bullpen depth, but it's really, again, it's almost impossible to predict what AJ Preller will do to build this roster.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the guys on here because, like, you're right. Like, they have, like, I forgot Jason Adams on this team. Like, they do actually have bullpen depth. One of the things that they also have that is a guy who I guess they won't really trade, but he missed all of last year is like, Joe Musgrove is back, and that could be good. But this team, I guess my way of looking at this team feels like what people think the Phillies are in terms of too old and didn't make moves, I think is actually this Padres team. You would never look at this roster, which is pretty much entirely run back with the exception of Cease and obviously Rise, and be like, wow, they were 3 games out of the division. Like this doesn't feel like looking at, I know we didn't do it like we normally do, where it's like, how many wins did they have? Like they won 90, their Pythag was 90. This felt like an 85 win team all year, and it looks like a 83 win team.
I think it's going to be tough because it's like this team is going to be it's going to be make or break based on the pitching. And because what you're going to get from Tatis, you can hopefully get a bounce back year from Merrill, but I think there's so many question marks about this team that it's really tough to say whether they're going to do. I could see them doing a lot worse than last year. I could see them doing a lot better than last year. But there's questions that like catching. There's questions in terms of what you're going to get from the aging veterans like Manny Machado, like Xavier, and like Bogaerts. So it's tough because I could see them winning 95 games, but I could also see them kind of just barely missing the playoffs if like the pitching falls apart because there's no reinforcement. There's not like a top prospect we can call on to come up and come
Eat
up
innings.
pitch, eat innings and pitch, kind of later in the season. So it's tough because so it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Well, and I think they're going to need to get more production too. Obviously, and I know, Berg, you're going to want to talk about your boy Jackson Merrill, who's going to be definitely key for this lineup. But Machado definitely showing some signs of decline, to say the least. I mean, he's been around for quite a bit now, and I know that just from an advanced standpoint, now look, if you look again, I'm on handy grabs here, like still a 123 WRC plus last year, still hitting almost a 13% barrel, like expected WOBA around 366. So on the surface, like all his numbers still are quite good. But if you get any more decline from Machado, you've already got Bogaerts, who is just barely above a league average bat in terms of WRC plus right now. And you're putting more, leverage here on Merrill, Laureano, and you really need Tatis to be like a MVP caliber level player, in order for the lineup to like kind of maybe potentially cover some of the holes in the pitching. So like, I think there's like a kind of a decent long tail on this team. As I don't know if that's like a hot take or anything, but I can see this actually there's a number of scenarios where I could see like the bottom sort of falling out, and this being a year where Preller just figures out that I need to kind of reset some of my chips and see what I can build around Tatis, Merrill, and try and potentially figure out what to do with Mason Miller.
Yeah, I like I'll give a little Jackson Merrill love because like I think he's gonna have a bounce back year, and a lot of the stuff that you saw was kind of nuts on him. But like you mentioned Laureano. Like Laureano's not gonna have a year like he had last year, guys. Like I mean, he actually comes up in like my RBI filters because he had a expected slugging of 531. By the way, he only had like 488 plate appearances because I'm pretty sure he's a platoon guy, generally speaking. And so, sure, that just is kind of wild to me. He was batting cleanup a lot of last year, and like for me, I always forget that like Manny came up as like an 18 or 19-year-old. Like Manny's been around like a while. But I like Jackson Merrill. I think Jackson Merrill's a stud. I think Jackson Merrill could steal bases. I think Jackson Merrill seems to me, if I'm going to key in on one guy, there's two guys on this team that I kind of have keyed in that I do kind of want to, quote, buy on. I like Nick Pivetta a lot. He constantly pops in every single pitcher metric I have, but also keep in mind he's off his biggest workload in a while last year. He's off a monster year. But Jackson Merrill, I feel like everybody's talking about who can have bounce backs, and I feel like everyone forgot that this dude made the club made the opening day club in a new position. And if Paul Skeens didn't exist, he would have been rookie of the year. In my 45-1 mind, he was rookie of the year. So Justin, I asked you this before we kind of get into a couple player future and win total stuff. Like who do you think who's the guys that you would key in on this team, whether it's a fantasy or it's even like a betting perspective every day?
You mentioned that the main one. I think Merrill. I mean, this team is going to go as far as Merrill can go. It's something that it's going to be. If Merrill bounces back and he taps into that potential we saw that in his rookie year, that will take some of the load off Tatis, some of the load off of Machado and some of the other veterans. But you got to wonder kind of which version of Merrill you're going to get. I would love it if he gets back that rookie year potential where it looks like, hey, this is the guy that you can pencil in for center field for the next 10, 15 years. So it's kind of like there's so much variable like right now that I would say that definitely, of course, Tatis and Merrill are kind of like the two guys who, if you want to make bets on, those are kind of the two that I would feel comfortable with. And of course, there's also Mason Miller in the bullpen, but I think those three guys, I would feel comfortable putting some money down in terms of how they're going to perform this year. But in terms of like aging, or in terms of like there's a lot of like platoon, especially at first base, left field. So it's kind of like there's a lot of unknown right now. outside of those. I'd say like Tatis, Merrill, Mason Miller.
CJ, let's kind of move towards. Well, let's kind of go to. Are there any player futures that you're kind of liking on this team?
I've got a couple of team futures that I'm a little more interested in.
All right, what do you got?
On the player side, I agree. Like, I was kind of looking to see if I could find I want to see. It's not. I don't think the number's up yet, but I'm totally with you on the Laureano one. Like, I wanted to try
such a wild number.
Some way.
Maybe it's on under
him. So, if you could find like an under season long RBIs or some sort of like season long, even like under runs, that would be one that I would be quite interested in looking at. Also, 24 home runs for him last season, and
it's absurd.
Which, like, what is his? I'm just trying to see. Like, I'm looking here on Baseball Reference. Was that a career high in home runs? Yeah, it was tied for a career high in home runs. He hit 24 home runs with the A's in 2019. So, if you can see, I'm gonna, I'll try and look here if I can on home run bands for like over under season long home runs, another market that you and I like a lot. If you get a number of like 24 and a half, you hammer the under on that for Laureano. So that's the guy that I'm probably most interested in. I think from a team future standpoint, so I talked about like there could be, I'm looking for more like sort of what if things go wrong in the pitching? What if things go bad? Where am I going to get value on this team? And there was two I thought were kind of fun that you're going to get a decent price on. One is that DK has the markets for which team has more wins. And they have like random matchups for this, but one of them is the Padres and the Diamondbacks. So the Diamondbacks over under win total is 79.5. Padres is 83.5. I actually think these teams are very similar, and I can actually make probably just as many cases, if not maybe a few more, for the Diamondbacks to be slightly better than the Padres. You can take the Diamondbacks for more wins than the Padres at plus 265. So that's one that I thought was kind of interesting. The other one, I think, a little bit longer, but also pretty good value would be finishing position within the division.
I was just looking at that.
Again, if you have the theory that, and we both, spoiler alert, are somewhat high on the Giants, so that also might be coloring my opinion here. But if you think that the Giants, and you think that there is a realistic chance that the Diamondbacks are going to be better than the Padres, okay, well, they're not going to finish fifth because the Rockies are in the division, but that basically means they have to be finishing fourth in the division at that point. And at fourth, you're going to get them at plus 475. So if you think the bottom can come out on this team, I would be looking at that sort of close to 5-1 to finish fourth in the division, because I do think that the Diamondbacks, the Giants, and obviously the Dodgers are there. All of those teams could easily be ahead of them and in more of that high 70s, low 80s win totals, whereas I could see it being a season where the Padres are well below. Again, playing the sort of long tail end.
It's funny because you look at the D-backs exact finishing position, so they're like 2-1 for fourth, and then the Padres are effectively 2-1 for third, which basically kind of supports. Then they're saying that they're actually saying that it's actually, at the bare minimum, it's a toss up actually between these two teams in there, because one of them's going to get that, one's going to be the other. I was trying to look up and see because I was looking at their longest losing streak over 6.5 is plus 155, which is another like bottom dropout type of thing. Spoiler, instead, like I found the thing. I bet on the things that I loved on this team, which were like, I think Jackson Merrill 22.5 home runs is too low for him. I think he's a upper 20s push for 30 type of guy. And then I have Michael King. So if Michael King comes back and is good, and is Michael King from 2024, 190 Ks is 2-1. He had 200 Ks that year. So, I think a way to play his ceiling on stuff. I mean, if he's going to pitch, he's going to pitch, and he's going to eat those innings, and he's going to have that K rate and have that stuff back. I feel like a lot of last year was not even as much that he was hurt as much as he came back from being hurt and didn't really care, is what it felt like. Like, it just sort of felt like he was just like pitching out. So I like that. That and Merrill are kind of the two that I like, but I do like that look on the D-backs. I'm going to put a pin in it for when we have our episode with Lee. Justin, what are kind of things that you like, or any markets that you're looking at?
The ones I looked at the most, I mean, I saw one for Mason Miller to have the most saves, which I think could happen. I think the favorite in that one is Diaz, which I don't know if he can stay healthy, the entire year.
Yep.
The Dodgers have some kind of bullpen or some kind of pitching curse where they will line up this great rotation, great bullpen, and then one by one something happens. Almost kind of like the Simpsons softball episode where they just one reality after
weird things. Yeah.
The Dodgers. So it's kind of something that that was like I found like three kind of like player, or actually there's two players and one more. Yeah. So I'd say like the easiest one, Mason Miller from North saves. So that's something I would feel comfortable betting on. Another one, Tatis, 40 home runs. That was at plus 600, which that's medium. Okay, there's a little riskier. This one I found was really interesting. That I think it could happen. So say if like that top 1% projection happens, where the pitching holds up, Merrill bounces back, Tatis has an amazing year, Craig Stammen for manager of the year in the NL. I think the Padres would have to finish above the Padres would have to finish above the Dodgers for that to happen. I kind of saw that there was a plus 1,000, and that was an interesting one I thought too. But I kind of ranked those.
What was the odds on that, Justin? Because I'm trying to look up what their division price is to win the division. Okay, so they're 9-1 to win the division. What's the? I'm going to assume the manager of the year one is longer than that, right?
Gotta be.
Yeah, it's plus 1,000.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. And he's not winning unless they win the division. So if they win the division, then bet that instead of trying to take them to win the division. If you can find a better number.
Yeah, so there's kind of like the three player bets I was looking at, and kind of ranked in terms of would I do this or am I crazy? And, yeah. So there's kind of the three that stood out to me, and that I kind of said, what, I might bet on that.
Dude, he had 40 home runs. I mean, he's got that. I never know which version of him I'm getting, but when he's on, he's on. And you're 100% right. If this lineup clicks, the lineup clicks. And it does. We've seen they won 90 games last year. They won 90 games 2 straight years. You can't do that without being a decent team to do that. So I guess to wrap these then up, what are you thinking over under on their win total? Their win total right now is I see 86.5. Is that right, CJ? Hold on, let me just.
I thought I saw 83.5 when
they
last looked.
That went down. Okay, that went further down. Let me just see. 83.
Yeah, they're 83.5 minus 83.5 on the green book for under.
Over under, Justin.
83.5. I'm going over. This is still a team that won 90 games last year. They're mainly running it back. It's something that if they can get some progression from Merrill, and the pitching is going to be that's going to be the biggest wild card, because I think AJ Preller has the most faith in the pitching coach Ruben Niebla I've ever seen. Where he just he didn't the Padres didn't acquire any big frontline starters, but like you said, they got Griffin Canning, they got McKenzie, they got Walker Buehler.
A who's who of the AL from 2021. It's great.
And this rotation 6 years ago, they win the World Series. Right now, it's kind of so it's more of Niebla is probably one of the best pitching coaches in the league. So they're kind of banking on, hey, if one or two of these guys has any success, I think they can. I think they can hit the over of 83. If it's basically Pivetta some starts from King and an okay year from Musgrove, I'd say under. So it really depends on kind of how rosy you see, or like how rosy you are on the pitching staff.
Yep. Nope. That's a good call out. CJ, what are you on the 80? I didn't realize it was so low. 83.5.
I think I'm really glad we had you on, Justin, because I like it when we have guests that are of the opposite. I can tell you're a little bit higher on this team than I certainly am. I'm like right there in terms of like median outcome. I think 83.5 is probably fair. I would probably lean under for a couple of the reasons that I had said earlier on this podcast, but again, I personally wouldn't bet that. If I'm betting this team on any sort of win total, I'm taking their win band of 88 to 92, which you can get at plus 330, or I'm going to be betting what we had talked about earlier about like finishing fourth in the division. Because I don't see a lot of scenarios where they're going to finish actually like really close to the win total, even though I agree that that's probably the fair number. I think that they're either going to go closer to that 90, 93 wins, or they're going to be in sort of that mid 70s range. Because there's just a lot of variability between the pitching staff and the lineup.
Yeah. I'm glad you're here too, because I didn't realize it was that low. And you're right. It's like kind of squarely in that. The one thing that gets me, I'd be on the under. It's a no bet for me, but the under, they had the second most 1-run games last year that they won in all the league. They had 31 run wins, which is really like, and that's kind of a major swing metric for me. I also didn't realize they won 52 games at home last year. Wow. Like Petco was the place. They were terrible against left-handed pitching. It's just crazy to me, but yeah, I have to kind of go the under based on that, but I absolutely see where all of this clicks. And look, I mean, Tatis is the fourth shortest odds for MVP for a reason. Like he is that dude. And that lineup, like if of the three of the mix of McKenzie, Canning, Dart, King, and Musgrove, if two of those four folks work out and pitch 160 innings,
or Walker Buehler,
if two of those guys work out, it's a difference between an 85 and a 75 win team. So under, but I see that path.
I would say over on the 83, but I'd say 87 is like a reasonable.
No, dude, that's where it opened. There's no wrong answer here. That's why we wanted to have you, because you know this team. This is your team.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sky high on them, but it's kind of like it's. Like I said, this is going to be a very hard team to predict. So I would say 87 is. I would say 85 to 87 is like the safe range for me. But then again, I could see it going south, but I could see it also going the other way. But I would say safe. I'd go over on the 83.5.
If you had a guess, make a guess right now. Who is somebody who's on this lineup who is not on this team? This team, the bottom falls out. Who's the first guy on this team to go at midseason?
Castellanos.
All right. Who's the guy on this team that didn't come here that may get kicked off? Who of the regulars that would you say? Who's the most shocking person you could see the Preller trading?
It's tough to think of the mainstays. Like their contracts are so bad that like I couldn't unless they wanted to attach like Ethan Salas or the big prospect to like Bogaerts, which I don't see happening. I mean, in terms of like the regulars, I could say they've got platoons at first base, left field. Cronenworth, I could maybe see going, but there's really
that's kind of the one that I was thinking of too. He's one of those guys who like always we thought had like a higher ceiling than he does, but like he's like kind of like Rhino Hearn already, type of thing.
If you look around, like catching, there's still you've got Freddie Fermin and you got Luis Campusano, who are both kind of like this is the make or break year for both of them. First base is like five guys, going to that position right now in spring training. Second, you got Cronenworth. Shortstop, Bogaerts. which if Preller can move that contract, he's a magician, not just a GM. Again, same with Machado, same with Tatis. You got guys who just you can't move them because it would take you would almost have to either give them up for nothing or attach a prospect to get something in return. Yeah. So there's not really a lot of like in terms of like the guys who like you could pencil them to start every day. It's tough because they're getting a lot of money too. You can't move those contracts easily.
It's just
I wonder where you could get a top 5 prospect to try and package up to make a Bogaerts get off this contract deal sweeter. Oh wait, I don't have any more of those. If I'm AJ Preller, I really, by the way, am praying that you are wrong about Castellanos, and that I know you probably were saying that jokingly. I need a Nick Castellanos at the Philadelphia Phillies on June 2nd in my life. I need this to happen. So. I am already circling that day and setting my alarm to bet a Casty bomb because I think it will be just electric. So
I will
June 2nd, mark your calendars.
I will be betting his 2Ks. Justin, do you want to tell everybody where they can find you? I know that you're not on the Twitters, but you are on other platforms. If you want to be found, you may not want to be found. So.
It's I've got Instagram. You can look up Justin for workouts. You can go to my website, buyjustinlafferty.com. I am a freelance writer, baseball researcher. I'm doing a lot of stuff right now. So basically, I'm writing and creating good content. That's what I'm focused on. So you can find me on LinkedIn, find me on Instagram, or buyjustinlafferty.com.
He's also a fine human being, and real big bingo fan. With his wife, they go to bingo nights and it's fun. I will see you in a couple weeks because I will be in town for March Madness, and then I'll be in town for WrestleMania. So we'll make some things happen. All right. So for CJ at Dad's at Bet, Spencer at Spencer_Ray. This was the San Diego Padres episode. Stick around if you are doing these all on a playlist. There's got tons of more baseball. We are halfway through the season. I keep saying that, but we definitely are halfway through at this point. Or if you just started listening to this, you're not halfway through. This is your first one. But that'll be the end of the San Diego Padres one. Again, thank you to Hall of Fame Bets, hofapp.com. Use code DADS, and we will see you on another preview episode.